I grew up in a small village outside of Kigali, Rwanda, and I come from a very poor family. My father had died when I was very young, leaving my mother to raise me and 7 other siblings. And growing up was very difficult because often we couldn't find food or shelter, and we had to rely on relatives and family friends for help. When I was a young girl, my mother was attacked by the local militia, who offered to help the family after my father's death. 3 men raped her, and she was told not to tell anyone, or her family would be harmed. She was never the same since then, and I lived in constant fear that something like that would happen to me, but I never could have imagined how it would be like. When I was almost 20, it was then that the killings in Rwanda began. I had hoped that my children, husband, and I would be safe in our own village, but the Interahamwe militia came for us because we were Tutsi. I didn't understand it. Tutsi, Hutus, I didn't see any difference. They killed my husband. Then I grabbed my 2 children and ran. But I was separated from them, and I never found them. I think about my family every day, and sometimes I wish I had even died along with him. It seemed like a miracle when I was able to come to the US in 1995. I had befriended one of the American volunteers at the refugee camp who had taken great pity on my story and petitioned for me to come to the US, saying that I'm better off here and I would have a better chance of finding my family. But then leaving my refugee camp at the home country was very difficult because I felt very blessed for having escaped all this destruction and violence that had taken place. But yet I couldn't forget what I had left behind. I felt full of guilt at leaving my children. I did not even know if they were alive or if they were dead or buried in mass graves. I tried to move on with my life. So many new things I had to get used to besides the language, the food, the streets, and all the cars everywhere and all the noises in the streets. All these things made it all alien to me. Then I joined a church, and some of the members helped me settle in. But still, after working and living here for a few years, I realized that something was still very wrong. I've always had these terrible nightmares about that night when those men came and took my children and killed my husband. And I thought that having these dreams was something normal. For instance, sometimes in the dreams, I dream and I see a tall militiaman walking towards me and my family. And then he tells his fellow soldiers, "Let me show you what we do to these cockroaches." And then he takes his machete and strikes towards me. And then I awaken screaming. And then there are other times in the dreams when I dream of being forced down in the refugee camp by the soldiers. The worst dream is when I see my husband and children. Then I try to run towards them. I run and run, but I cannot reach them. What scared me about these dreams also is that they didn't always happen at night. Sometimes when I'm walking down the street, I see a man wearing a green army jacket, and I go back to that night. I think it was him when he killed Jean Paul. I forget where I am. People see me and they think I'm easily scared. They think I'm crazy. Well, I suppose now I've gotten used to these things. It's been 13 years since it happened. But then, every now and then when I'm watching television, I see a movie or commercial that reminds me of all these killings that I had seen. And there's nothing I can do but cry. I even heard there's a movie about Rwanda that has come out, but I'm too afraid to go see it. The strange thing is that I can't even remember a lot of details about all these killings, how I escaped, or how long it took me to get to the refugee camp. And yet I'm haunted by all these things that I cannot remember. For example, sometimes when I see a knife, I start to shake, I tremble, and it takes me forever to calm down. And other times, say, I see a man walking towards me, and I know deep down inside of me that I have to keep away from him. People laugh at me because they say I'm easily scared. But you tell me, how can you not be easily scared when all these things happen to you? I try to go on with my day-to-day activities, and sometimes I'm forced to do a whole bunch of things to not have to remember what happened to me. But every now and then, these memories keep popping in my mind, but it's gotten just a little easier over the years. Some of my friends at church have told me and encouraged me to try to date and meet new people, but then I can't. I feel like nobody understands. And the minister also at my church has recently referred me to a counselor whom we've met a few times, and she's helping me to make sense of all these losses and also be able to move on with my life.